Thank you for coming to Back to Basics for Season 3. Today we're going to speak with Rich Bruno. We're going to find out what he's all about. All I know is that he's an entrepreneur and he's a corporate guy, and now he wants to change his life. It's not an easy task to change your life to something else. He wants to retire early. Now the question is, why does he want to retire? Well, we'll talk about that on the episode today. So let's go and meet Rich on this episode today. Rich Bruno, that is. I'll see you on Back to Basics. I'll see you there.
Hi, this is Rich Bruno. I just wanted to thank Girish Bali for inviting me on the podcast, Back to Basics. We discussed next chapter, best chapter, which was about my transition out of corporate America into my next phase, which included entrepreneurship and business coaching. And I will tell you, I really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation I had with Girish. He was a great host. He led me through, just different things to think about, provoking questions, and it was really enjoyable. So it was great for me to help share my story, get a couple of messages of inspiration across, and I look forward to connecting with Girish again in the future. Thank you.
Hi, folks. Thank you again for coming on to Back to Basics, another week. We're almost done for the season. Season 3 is almost over. And thank you again all for supporting me for all the stuff that I'm doing. And hopefully you guys are liking it. Please review and rate the show. Today, we're going to speak about, the new chapter in everyone's life, new stages in everyone's life. Now, the question is, there's a lot of layoffs going on in the world. There's a lot of new ideas coming on in the world. And today is the person that I need to go and talk to about his new journey, his new chapter, his new stage of life per se. So let's stop talking to me and why don't we go and speak with Rich and get to know him better. Actually, I kind of know him already. So let's hold off on that and let's go to the episode. Rich, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Hi, Girish. I am great. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited about our conversation.
Awesome. Rich, before we get to the further of the next chapter, or I should say the next episode, or whatever you want to call it, what does Back to Basic mean to you, Rich?
Back to basics means to me doing what's most important to you, right? Making sure that you do what gives you a fulfilled life, and it doesn't have to be complicated, right? So if you're just, connected to what's important to you and you actually take action against that, it doesn't really have to be that complicated. And the result of it is that it makes you feel really fulfilled. So that's what Back to Basics means to me. Don't keep it simple. Doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah. Thank you again for that, Rich. And thank you again for coming on the show, and definitely honored. But, let me ask you this before we get to the episode today. Is really Back to Basic really as simple as that, or is it really tough? Because I've been told it's a tough journey to be in the Back to Basic world.
I will say this, it's a mindset. For some people, yes, it will be very hard. For me, I think I'm a very positive-minded individual, and I'm a very grateful person, and I think I'm grounded. So it doesn't have to be complicated. Again, it's what you want to make it. I think if you are in touch with who you are and what you love, then you just align your goals to that, right? So it can be hard if you're not clear about what that looks like for you, or if you have certain barriers maybe that are holding you back from pursuing those things. But if you are someone with conviction and you really are clear about what it is that you want to go towards or to, then it's not that complicated.
Rich, thank you again for that, and thank you again for coming here. Let me ask you this: there's a lot of news out there that people are getting laid off, and it's very, very sad that it happens in the industry right now, any industry for that matter. People are kind of forced to think a different career mindset, or a different leap mindset, or a different entrepreneur mindset. What are your thoughts on that part?
I think that could be daunting for so many people. Let's face it, it's a scary time, right? If you get laid off and you don't have something immediately that you could pivot to, then of course you can get just completely paralyzed in fear, right? And just trying to go back into the job market. Some people at a very difficult age, right, to break into their industry or another industry, or even more so to reinvent themselves, right, to something different. And again, I think it goes back to mindset. And if you are thinking that, hey, I got this, I'm going to figure this out, or if you see it as an opportunity to go to do that thing that you've always wanted to do, maybe that you just didn't have the courage to do or the time to do because of your commitments to your career. Well, this is an opportunity to break free from that, right? And let's face it, if you take no action, then you may stay unemployed, you may really go into a dark place. And that's just terrible to see that happen to people. It definitely happens. But I do think that it's not that easy to just switch gears. It takes a lot of effort. It takes networking. It takes leaning on people that you care for and care about you and working your way through it. But again, it all starts with taking action, right? If you just stop and do nothing's going to just come to you, right? So yes, it's a tough time. I know a lot of people that I've talked to recently that have had to quote unquote reinvent themselves, right? Okay, I can't be in this role anymore. I need to go do something else. Maybe they do become entrepreneurs. Maybe they become their own bosses, right? Start their own business. And that's something that I did before I retired from corporate America. And I'm really grateful that I did it.
Yeah, thank you again for that. But Rich, it's going to be a crazy statement that I'm going to go and make because it's a fact. I mean, it's going to be a known fact. At the age mid 40s, 50s, and then 60s, it's tough to start something brand new because your mindset was already set on a regular, I don't know, a salary or 401k or W2. What are your thoughts on that part?
I think it's going to be very personalized. It varies by individual, right? Some people will have a skilled trade and no other skills. They may need to go back to learning something new, trying something new, but again, having the courage to go and do that. Other people are more resourceful. So it really depends on the individual, but it is absolutely no doubt about it a kick in the teeth if you're in 40s, 50-year-old age range, and maybe you're coming from a very lucrative salary, right? Let's just say you are really blessed to have a great job, great career, and it gets cut short, right? First thing I would do if I were in that position, let's say you're in that category of I'm a good earner, I've had a great, book of, history of great results with companies or a company. You have a lot of skills you could offer someone else. The fact of the matter is you also make a lot of money. So that's going to make it hard for you to just break in. The first thing I would do if I were in that mode, aside from opening my mind to all these other possibilities, and again, maybe it's becoming an entrepreneur, doing something different, going into a business with someone else, right? I think that you have to leverage your network. You go back to the people that you built relationships with, and I think that's extremely important. That's something that I think that is what I'm all about. I am absolutely a relationship builder. So assuming you've built good relationships, remember, you don't get what you don't ask for. Right. So if you don't go to your colleagues, your friends, your relatives and say, hey, I need some help, then that's on you. Right. Because if someone came to you, likely you'd give them help as well. Right. So not being afraid to ask and just putting yourself out there. Some people are shameful about the situation, but it's very common. You got to drop the shame. Right. Look forward, take your best steps forward, and you'll have a better likelihood of things working out in your favor.
Yeah, because the worst comes to worst, someone's gonna say no. But if you don't ask, you never know. Correct?
100%. It might take something totally out of the box, like maybe going to a career counselor. I did this, and it wasn't what drove me to retire, but I will mention this because it was really valuable for me. I actually took a behavioral assessment. I took what's called a DISC assessment from a professional. She's a career counselor, a good friend of mine. Her name is Bonnie Negron. She's a doll, and she's great at what she does. And she helped me to navigate that transition out of corporate America to being continuing, I should say, as an entrepreneur. And she did that by saying, listen, Rich, I'm going to help you with LinkedIn and your resume and so on, but I want you to take this DISC assessment. I got to tell you, it was gold, right? Because it helped me identify with the things that I'm really, that I'm drawn to, that I have strengths in, and that I could potentially leverage career wise. So she does a disc assessment that marries you up to different types of industries and jobs and could point you in a direction to seek out those jobs more specifically versus this random, broad brush, just apply to jobs randomly. So
Mm.
I would highly encourage people that get displaced to invest in a disc assessment or a behavioral assessment to get in touch with what they're really great at with, and maybe it'll open their eyes to something they may want to do that they never did before.
Yeah, Rich, thank you again for that. Let me ask you this: did the corporate life push you from earlier retirement, or did you plan it out to get into that stage that you felt kind of good, or it's a good change?
I felt absolutely fantastic about it, 100% conviction in my decision. I'll give you the short version of the story. Okay. I'm 54 and a half. It's October. I know in April I'm going to be 55. I also run a small business, the Max Challenge, which you're familiar with, right? And I had up to 3 locations at a time. So I had my day gig, which was a demanding role as a middle management leader, okay, in supply chain. And I had the Max Challenge. Building, a small business is not easy. And doing it 3 times over while you have a full-time gig, of course, it requires a lot of help. My wife was great. She partnered with me to raise our family and really did a lot of the heavy lifting. The team that I surrounded myself, all things super important. But back to your question about retirement, I was approaching 55. I had never thought of retiring early. So this is like a revelation. It just came out of nowhere. And I'm driving home and I'm like, wow, I'm going to be 55 in 6 months. And I started to realize the grind that I was going through. For 7 years, I
Mm.
got up and ran instructed a fitness class, took a class, drove to work, did my full-time gig, and ran a business all around that, including through weekends. I did that for 7 years. Okay. And I was maybe getting like run down, down to the nubs. I was grinding it out and I wasn't burnt out, I wouldn't say, but I just was realizing that I may need to rethink how I spend my time. That's really it.
Mm.
And I asked the right questions of my financial advisor. I checked the box that I'd be able to retire, right? That's just you can't do this like without a plan, guys. So if you're just gonna willy nilly, I feel like quitting today and you got no plan, probably not going to be the best thing for you, right? So I had a plan based on I knew financially I was able to do this. The reason I did it had nothing to do with not loving my job, loving the people I work with. I work for Johnson & Johnson, the best company I ever worked for. Okay, I worked for 3 companies. Nothing bad to say. Loved my career, loved the people I worked with. But, and this is the big but, I was racing through everything for my family,
Mm.
right? 3 kids, running to this practice, going to that game, going to this dance. It was nonstop. And I was not someone that was willing to give any of that up, but I was doing it at a pace that I didn't like. I needed to pump the brakes. So for me, retirement was all about getting balance in my life and having a better quality of life, slowing it down and enjoying. I could have easily said, you know what? I'll wait till I'm 62, maybe later, then I'll retire. Guess what? My kids are in college. I got a great thing going with my kids. We are so tight. We've always been. That is the most important thing to me and my family. And so I was not willing to give up any of that. So I
Mm.
wanted to seize that opportunity of all that wonderful time I had ahead of me, God willing, to be with them and to do things with my family. So that's why I retired. But fortunately for me, I started a small business 7 years prior to that out of a true passion. I just love this program, the Max Challenge, and it helped me to help other people live happier and healthier lives. And
Mm.
that was such a great reward to me. So my transition was from corporate America into the Max Challenge all in
Mm.
without having to do 2 things.
Mm.
And then shortly after that, I got certified as a John Maxwell coach, speaker, and trainer, and output from this disc assessment that said, hey, you got to coach people.
Mm.
Like, and I really believe that's in me. I love helping people in different ways. So that's why I retired. And the path forward the last 4 years has been nothing short of amazing for me.
Mm. Rich, thank you again for that. And you've been a great coach for a lot of different people, including myself. Not a lot of people know that,
Thank you.
but I was in that same program that you were just talking about a few minutes ago. So thank you again for all the boost in my life that you have created for me. Uh, so let me ask you this: retirement for people means not doing anything, and I got enough finances. But I think the answer that I got from you is work life balance, which means that you're working also, but then you're also making money at the same time. So does that mean that there's no need for a retirement and you just work and work, but in your terms? Is that right?
That's a great way to put it. So I want to go back to one of the comments I made at the very beginning, which was align to what you want and what you love to do, and put a plan in place to make that come to life, right? So that's for me, retirement really was a transition. I don't even like to use the word retirement.
Right.
All I did was really shift gears, right? I'm a young, active, I think relatively young. I plan on living a really long time, God willing, right? So I feel like I'm full of life. I don't feel like retirement means, okay, I'm not able to do anything anymore. I'll just kick back and relax. Now, some people want to do that, and that's fine, right? Again, you feel like you're prepared for retirement, meaning you want to stop working or you want to go do something else. Can be two totally different things, right? For me, it meant making a transition, not stopping everything. It's going to do things that I love to do, doing more of it on my terms. I love that you added that. So the biggest thing I tell people when they say, "Oh, you retired at 55, what do you do?" I answer them, whatever I want. That's what I say, right? Because now I own my calendar, right? Now it's up to me with how I use my time. But I will tell you, I use it well. I believe I use it well,
Mm,
right? I'm very intentional, right? I'm still very driven, but I'm just doing it at a different pace. That's
mm,
the only difference. Now, people that say retire, what I would wish for them is that you don't necessarily have to have a plan to do something else if you don't want to do anything,
mm,
but know as best as you can what you're getting into. You hear stories about people retiring because they just get tired of work,
mm,
right? They just get tired of work, but they go and do nothing. And then they're like, holy smokes, I miss work. Right? Like it's like that was actually better when I had something to do. So go and do something else, even if it's just something social that you love. Volunteer, get involved, pick up a sport, like start reading. I mean, whatever it means to you, just go do something.
mm. Yeah, thank you again, Rich, for that. We started a new segment for season 3, which is the rapid fire round. In this rapid fire round, I have some sentences and words, whatever pops in your head. You ready with that game?
I'm gonna be as ready as I'm gonna be. Let's go.
Okay. Okay, so the first word is going to be mindset.
Positivity.
Okay, layoff.
Take action.
Okay, market.
Market.
Mhm.
Is that the word? To market?
Yes.
Market yourself, right? Whether it's the relationships or whatever business you're building,
Okay, taking action.
intentional living,
Soft skill versus hard skill.
soft skills rule.
Okay, relationships versus networking.
Do both.
Okay, introvert versus extrovert.
Well, I'm an extrovert, but this is rapid fire, right? So extrovert is put yourself out there,
Okay, old rich versus new rich.
completely fulfilled,
Okay, assessment.
thoughtfulness,
Okay, old chapter versus new chapter.
live your best life.
Okay,
Says right
old
here.
life, old life versus new life.
Keep making it better.
Okay, transition.
Gracefulness.
Okay, and rich is.
Rich is very happy.
Okay, and the last one is going to be back to basics.
Back to basics is about don't make it too complicated.
Okay, awesome. Rich, thank you again for playing the rapid fire round for
Okay.
season 3. Rich, let me ask you this. I've always seen you um, run, run, run. Because what I'm saying is you have always been an entrepreneur, even though that you worked in your corporate life, but I've always seen you run, run, run.
Yes.
So do you think you are going to be run, 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 or you're going to be slow, 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 or balance, balance, balance? Because I think this is a new chapter that you're trying to learn also as you go.
I think the best way I describe it is a fast walk, probably. Right. So, but the balance piece is key. So I'm going to give you a flavor for like kind of my new lifestyle. Right. So I do business consulting. I do personal development coaching. I absolutely love doing it. And I've made some purposeful transitions. But again, it is all about balance. And I'm glad you mentioned that word. Right. So J&J to solely Max was all immersed in Max. Then over time, I gradually backed away from Max very intentionally, not because I don't absolutely love the people and the program, but my wife and I decided she would take more of the responsibility of running that business, and I would be fully in to coaching and consulting. And I'm a believer of you got to jump in with both feet. You can't kind of like straddle a fence and think you're going to just kind of get by. You got to put your whole self into being the very best that you could be. So the balance part for me is that I'm not consulting 24/7, obviously, right? And the way I approach my day is very different. And that's where the balance comes in, right? So the way I approach my day now is a 180 from what it used to be. I told you it was, get up at 3:30 in the morning, go teach a class, boom, boom, boom. It was like a hamster on a wheel, right? Now I have a dedicated part of my morning that I try to keep a steady routine to, some reading, right? Exercise, thoughtfulness, journaling, those kinds of things. You read anybody that tells you about, setting your day up for success, they'll tell you to do those things first, right? So I don't do that every single day, but I do it most days. Sometimes I'll mix up. I'll go to Max one day. I'll work out at home another day. I'll go outside and have a cup of coffee and just think. Just think. What is my day going to look like? How do I prepare for the next client that I'm going to have later today? It's just, what do I want to do next with my kids? My twins are going off to college in August. That's consuming me because that's like a very big deal, right? Obviously, for anyone that's put the kid into college, times two at the same time. And I have a younger daughter, right? So, a lot of my time and energy is invested in my family because that's the most important thing to me. So, yes, I have balance. I'm in my personal life and family life, and I'm in growing my business professionally. So, I think I balance them very well. I don't think I'm lopsided in either way. I am very thoughtful about how I use my time, and I think I do it very effectively.
Rich, thank you again for that. In a couple of weeks we're gonna have Father's Day. Let me ask you a Father's Day question, if you don't mind. What did you learn from your dad? What did you learn from your dad that you said to yourself to forget about it? And did you take that and put that onto your son or your kids?
That you mean that I disregarded when I was younger, but that I brought back?
Exactly.
I don't think I could say I have such respect for my dad and thankful he's still with us. He's 81 years old. I learned such valuable lessons from my dad, and I was very appreciative of the life lessons I got from him. So I don't feel like I had a great relationship with him always. So it wasn't like, oh yeah, that's a bunch of nonsense, I'm just not going to listen to that. Then I became a parent and said, oh, he was really right. That's not really it for me. My dad was always a hard worker. He was always about his family. He was is a man of conviction. He'll stand alone on an idea if he thinks, he believes in it so much. And I think I have a lot of those traits. And he's a thoughtful, caring man. And I believe I have all those. So what my wife and I, and it's not just me, it's my wife. I mean, Maureen came from a family of 6, and she grew up in a middle-class family just like I did. And we have very, very similar values. And it's all about family first, consider others, give before you get. Never lose sight of the value of those relationships with your family. Make the most of it. And that's what he kind of passed down to me. And then instilling the values of hard work, right? You don't get things for free. My twins got their license, right? I probably could have bought them a car. I didn't, on purpose, right? I let them share the vehicle we have. So here's 2 kids. They're running around a pretty nice area, Freehold, Manalapan, right? They're seeing their friends driving around with convertible BMWs and stuff like that. And they're sharing a car. They get a Ford Explorer that they get sometimes, right? So I did that on purpose. We did that, my wife and I, because we wanted to instill in them the values.
Mm,
You got to work for things. You don't get anything for nothing,
mm,
right? So I think that's more valuable that I got that from my dad and I retained it and passed it on to them.
mm,
And I think it'll serve them for their lifetime.
mm.
So that's a long answer around what you asked me, but ultimate respect for my dad and my mom, just great parents that raised their kids the right way. And I think I took a lot of it.
Awesome. Rich, thank you again for being a sport and coming onto my show and sharing all the nuggets. But before you leave today, do you have any last words to all my Back to Basic listeners and my viewers? And how is your journey on Back to Basics too, on top of that?
My journey's been great. I love the topic that we talked about. I appreciate that you reached out to me. I know it wasn't the first time we had connected a long while ago. I'm very happy that I was able to be on the show. And you know what I really wanted to accomplish with you, Garish, is just to maybe provide some inspiration to people that maybe are in a transition or maybe considering a transition. I guess what I would leave you with is it's going to be okay, but you got to put the work in. It's going to be okay if you make the moves you need to make. You overcome your fears, you have conviction, you take action to make your life the way you want your life to be. It's possible. You just got to put the work in.
Mm. Yeah, Rich, thank you again for being a sport and thank you again for coming here. Just like what you said, live your best life, and that's what your T-shirt says.
Yeah.
And thanks again for coming here, and hopefully you and I will connect much later on, let's say season 4 for that matter, and come up with the Rich Point 2.0 version. How about
I
that?
would love to, and I really appreciate that you invited me on.
Awesome. Rich, thank you again for coming here. Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you.
So, guys, we spoke with Rich today, didn't we? And we talked about the basics of life. We talked about the transitions of life because we don't like to use the word retirement because everyone's, definition of retirement is very different. So let's use the word transition. Now, there's one thing that Rich did say is that he learned a lot of things from his dad, which means that he took the value of life and passed it on to his kids. And I think we should all do that. I thought that was a secondhand nature, but there's a lot of people who don't. So I should appreciate what Rich has done and what his dad has actually done for him. Now, as usual, as always, there's a quote of the day from Back to Basics, and hopefully Rich will like this. The quote is, "Every stage of life has its troubles, and no man is content with his own age." Everyone did say about 45, 50s, and 60s is tough transition to come out with their new life. And guess what? Rich actually did that. So why don't we take his example and make it into a new life for you, that is. Now, as usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, and I will see you next week on Back to Basics. Rich, how was that for you?
It was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. I like to have these situations really be free flowing, right? I never want it to be rehearsed. I'm glad you just provoked me with different questions.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's like a right answer. It's kind of just how
Yeah.
you feel, right? And so hopefully that came across. I definitely wanted to help people, inspire them with a message. And
Guys, thank you again for tuning in to Back to Basics and listening to the excellent episode that we had today with our guest. With your love and support, we do need you to at least rate our show, review our show, because it does make us stronger day by day, week by week, as I usually say on my episodes. And there are 3 things in this episode that it makes a hit for me, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. So guys, take care, God bless, and remember, everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and see you next time on Back to Basics.